welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sewing slash crochet slash general crafty YouTube channel. It has been the longest time since I recorded a video. I think this is probably the longest I have ever gone without recording a video. It was not intentional. I went on holiday and I had some projects that I wanted to finish in time for this trip, and I just about managed three if you count sewing projects, but I just did not have time to record any video about the finished objects. Then I was on holiday for 2.5 weeks in Sweden and I just came back last week, and I don't know, I just have not found any time to record, and it's weirdly intimidating to record after so long because so much has happened and there's so much to talk about that actually sitting down and beginning is kind of hard, which is a bit weird. So I'm going to have some tea, then I'm going to talk to you about 2 finished knitting objects, and yeah, I'm going to talk about some sewing, but very briefly. So yeah, there are timestamps on the video in case you're not interested in a particular craft, and you can skip around however you wish. So the first item, I can't actually recall if I talked to you about it on here because I was definitely doing multiple videos on my Instagram, and now it's kind of blurred if I ever mention this here, but I decided I wanted to make a 1950s boat inspired tea before I went to Gotland. It's kind of a random desire, you may think, but for some reason when I was in Gotland a couple of years ago, I had this like image of this t-shirt that I wanted. And then when I went to Stockholm the following April, anyway, I went to Stockholm after I went to Gotland at some point, and I came across this magazine that I will hopefully insert some footage of, and I saw a really adorable cardigan. So when I saw this cardigan, I thought, I want to make you, but I don't have enough yarn, I don't have enough time, but I do want to make you. So I had a rummage through my stash and I came across some sock yarn that I had when I started knitting, so it's like 5 years or so in my stash, and found some white, and they're basically scraps, and I thought I'd have plenty to make a long sleeve top, and I was humming and hawing between a 1940s jumper or a 1950s tee. Then I decided I wanted to make this cardigan at some point, so it would make more sense to have a tee, which is very, very lucky that that was the decision made because I did not have enough yarn. I did not have enough blue yarn at all, nowhere near. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'll show you the tee. And I'm hoping that I've added a photo or some b-roll. Basically, I have not had the time to put on everything, clean my room, and then film myself wearing these things. And I thought, if I don't record something now, it's going to be another week, and then I'm in the UK, and then it'll be another week. So hopefully you will see some evidence of this on my person. But for now, here it is. I took the boat image from the 1940 something. I took the boat chart from the Swedish vintage knitting magazine. So this I finished in Visby in Gotland. I did not manage to finish it before our holiday, but it was fun to work on something when I was on the boat or at the beach. So this isn't based on a specific pattern. I just made, as you can see, essentially a rectangle and then I ran out of the blue. So this is a different colour blue. And I was trying to decide if to use this blue or not. I think you can't tell in this light how much of a different dye lot this blue is. But these are the same Regia sock walls, but you just, like you can't say that they're the same dye lot. They look absolutely shades apart, not even the same shade of blue. And I thought it's going to look really weird if I do it here, but then I thought the white is just too white. And then a friend of mine said, why not just use red? You've got red here, it could work. And I think it works so well, and I'm so happy that she suggested it, because I would not have thought about that at any point. I did not think about it. So I gave it a go. I was a bit nervous that if it looked really weird, it would be so much ribbing to rip out, but it worked out very well, so thank you. This was started on my knitting machine. I knitted bottom up and in pieces. There are 2 pieces. And I did a duplicate stitch for the first time on a garment. I've only done duplicate stitch once on a mitten, and they were very like randomly placed bits that you needed to do for the specific pattern, so it wasn't like a full-on chart. And I've used duplicate stitch to fix some holes, but I was a bit intimidated to do it on a garment right at the front in case it looked terrible, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I took this chart from the Swedish magazine, and on the original one they had 4 going across on the cardigan. I did consider doing all 4 across, but I thought it's going to look like they're sinking if they start like veering off to the side when I wear this on my t-shirt. When I wear this on my body, they would start drooping. So I thought, no, we'll go with 1, and that's enough for my first time doing duplicate stitch as well. So now I have done this, I feel a bit more excited about duplicate stitch projects in the future. I do have one in mind, but I'm going to keep it a bit hush hush for now, just because I'm not sure when I will be casting it on. And I do intend to make a cardigan to match this. I just need to find this wool again in this shade. And it's kind of funny that I used this as scrap yarn to use it up, and now I'm going to buy a cardigan's worth to make a matching cardigan. But I don't know when. It could be a month, it could be a year from now. That's just the general plan. I want to make that Swedish 1940s, I think it was 40s, cardigan to go with this. I did get a bit haphazard with my ribbing on this, but I don't think it's too obvious. I did a 2x2 twisted rib for the neck. Then I did 2x2 twisted rib in a different colour for the blue. And then for some reason I did 1x1 twisted rib for the ribbing down here. And I don't know why, but it did turn out really well. I forgot that I used to do twisted rib all the time. When I started knitting, I always did twisted rib on my socks. Yeah, always. And it looks really nice, and a lot of my vintage jumpers, the ribbing just doesn't hold. It's kind of floppy. And so I thought I'm gonna go back to what I used to do. So I did, and it did take me a very long time. Just this ribbing, which is about 2.5 inches, which is like 7 centimeters. I think. I actually can't remember if I did 2.5 or 3 inches, but I think 2.5. It took like a week or more to do this. It's on 2.25mm needles, and yeah, I don't love doing ribbing, but it was fun to have a knitting project that was simple that I could do when we went to the beach and when we were on the ferry and just out and about. I finished it in Gotland and cast off, and it took me so long to do the bind off, and as soon as I finished it I thought that is not going to stretch. Oh, like I'll get it over my head and then it will not go over my shoulders. It did not. I just got it on and that's as far as it got. I was so annoyed because I should have known that, because this is obviously a very small ribbing and like there are my shoulders. That was never going to do that. Like, So I painfully ripped out the bind off, which was really I'm gonna say it was really complicated. It was more faffy, and this is merino superwash sock yarn, and so the stitches just kept slipping off, and because it was 1x1 twisted rib, getting them back onto my knitting needles was a bit of a faff, especially when I kept dropping one of the stitches and it would start to run. So after, I think it was 3 hours, it took me to collect all the stitches, put them back, catch them all, put them back onto the needles and do a stretchy bind off. So that was probably my least favourite part about the project, but it was my fault, completely my fault. I did learn this Judy's surprisingly stretchy bind off because I've tried it once before and it looked horrendous, and I think I just watched the very beginning of a video saying that you just do this yarn over and then you knit 2 together and yarn over, and I hadn't realised that you do a different yarn over before a purl stitch versus a knit stitch. And so what I had done in the past just looked so weird and flared and bobbly and like, not bobbly but loopy. It's because I didn't watch the video properly and I didn't actually learn what I had to do before doing it. This time, however, I watched the whole video and did it correctly. It's an obvious bind off, it's quite thick, but I don't really care. And after having it not go over my head and not fit, that was a lot more stressful than a mildly unattractive bind off. So it is done. It is done. It's very comfortable and I don't really have much more to say. I seamed it up with a crochet hook and yeah, that's all I've got to say really. So very pleased with it, and I hope to make the cardigan at some point in the future. One thing to mention in case you're new here, I have a vintage knitting machine from the 50s. That is what I use to knit the stockinette parts, and the rest I did by hand. If you are intrigued by my knitting machine, I've done a few videos on it, so you can have a look through my other videos to see. Then onto my finished object, which I finished a couple of days before I left. This one I am pretty sure I've mentioned to you that I wanted to do, and for fear of you all jumping ship because it's such an original piece. Yes, it's another Ranunculus. I know I'm not the only one to have made multiple Ranunculus jumpers by Midori Hirose, but it's still beautiful. It's still my most worn item. Like, I have a jumper, I have 3 jumpers and 2 t-shirts, and I wear them all the time. And I noticed that on holiday, unknowingly, I had brought this, my white cotton t-shirt of the Ranunculus, and my blue mohair alpaca Ranunculus. So if variety is the spice of life, I'm not very spicy. So I won't go on too much about the pattern itself, I'll just talk about some of the things that I used. So the base of this is the yarn that I purchased in Gotland the last time I was there I did not leave the label out to help myself out. It's like Stenskirke, don't know why I sound Irish there, Stenskirke yarn. I'm gonna put it here because I can't find the label. But when I was in Gotland the last time, I purchased 3 skeins of this glorious wool, and I don't know what I had planned to make with it, but I'm pretty sure when I got home I realised it would not be enough yarn. And it sat in a box for the last 2 years. I think I went to Gotland 2 years ago, not 3. And I thought, no, I can't go to Gotland and buy more yarn without having used any of the yarn that I purchased the last time. So I made the Valkyria cardigan with the Gotland's spinnery yarn, and then I had this white cream yarn and I made this with it. And I thought, I've got this 1 skein of mohair in my stash. For some unknown reason I thought I had 100 grams of this, and I purchased this when I started knitting, and I remember going onto some Danish website and seeing a bunch of stuff that was reduced, and I just bought a whole bunch of random yarn that was reduced and then just left it in a box because they're such random weights or random amounts that I never used them. So I thought, I have this 100 gram skein of mohair, I'm going to use that. Then as I was working through the jumper I thought, it's weird, I thought 100 grams of mohair would go further than this. Turns out it was 50 grams of mohair that I purchased, not 100. So I did in fact run out of the mohair, and I actually thought I was going to run out of the main yarn, and I was thinking at least if I run out of it I could bring this with me, buy another skein of that yarn in Gotland and then finish the jumper, because I wouldn't be able to buy that yarn if I wasn't in Gotland, so that's the best place to run out of that yarn. I did not run out of that, I have plenty left, but the mohair I did. So I ended up using a skein that I purchased a couple of years ago. I don't know what the project I planned to use it for, like what happened to that project, but I had this 1 skein of Knitting for Olive mohair. And I'm going to have an unpopular opinion here, but I don't care. The mohair that I used for the rest of the body is so fluffy and lovely, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's just fluff. It's just this delightful fluff. And then when I swapped over at the same place on each sleeve to the Knitting for Olive mohair, you can see every individual strand, and there's lots of loops and like scraggly bits of this silk mohair. I don't know if my camera's picking it up, but I realised that I don't actually particularly like the Knitting for Olive mohair that much, and I really much prefer the one that I had here. And I also liked the Tilia mohair, which is by Filcolana, I think. I've not used any other mohair, so that was the first time I used the Knitting for Olive, I think. I'm now wondering if I used it before, but that's irrelevant. Basically, I just discovered that I prefer this miscellaneous company's mohair, and I don't really remember who the company were. So that's a bit sad. What else? I used twisted rib for the ribbing. I technically cast on the wide... Did I cast on the wide neck? I remember I cast it on 60 stitches, but I'm now wondering if that was the smaller neckline or the wide. I think it's the smaller neckline. And I had the pattern, the original one, that only had the one size, so that's the one I did. I did adjust the amount of raglan increases. I think I took out 2 because it ends up just getting far too wide for me when I have these raglans. So it did make it smaller. It's a sport weight wool with mohair, so it was quite a thick gauge. It's thicker texture, thicker density than the recommended, which is like lace and mohair, I think. But I wanted it more like a cozy jumper that was thicker, so I went with that. And yeah, I suppose I just kind of wing it with the Ranunculus jumpers. I just use whatever yarn I feel like and just knit it and keep an eye on how big it's getting and then adjust to how I like it. I don't really follow gauge. I didn't check gauge. I just make it up. I'm now remembering that I got down here and realized that I was off. You see these 4, they were over by 1 stitch. And I did this on my first or second Ranunculus. I did this and I never noticed. So it's still there. Then I did it again on my cotton one and I had to go back and fix it. And somehow I did it again on this one, but only on the very front. So the arms and the back, that was all fine, but the front was wrong. And I had done about 3 or 4 more rows after, so I tried to drop back and fix it, and I probably spent 2 days, which was such a waste of my life, trying to fix it. And when I say 2 days, I don't mean I sat from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. I just mean I faffed around with it on one day, and then I faffed around with it the next, and realised I don't know how to fix lace. So I just ripped it all back and re-knitted it wrong again. So then I just unknitted that row and redid it. It doesn't look fantastic because there are some parts that still look a bit weird from me stretching out the yarn and messing up the previous rows, but it's so fluffy, no one's going to notice. If they do, I don't care. So it's such a cozy, nice, fluffy jumper of loveliness that I'm really happy with it. And that won't be my last Ranunculus because I love them so much. I don't think I made any other modifications. I did a what do you call it, like a broken rib on the bottom, and I just knitted it to however long I wanted it to be. And that is everything that I did to it. I will write down what needles I used because I can't remember. I feel like it was 6mm. I know it went by a lot faster than my usual vintage knits. So that was fun. It was fun to finish a jumper in a week instead of a month or 2. And it was very nice to have it on my journey. I did have grand plans of telling you all about my crochet blanket, but I never managed to finish it because I didn't pack the spare yarn. I thought there's no way I'm going to actually manage to get all this blanket seamed together. I don't need to bring all this excess stuff, and you know what I did? I managed to crochet and join all of my squares that I had, and I couldn't finish it because I didn't bring the spare yarn to finish, I think, 3 more squares. So that I'm hoping will come up on my next video because that will feel so good to get that amount of yarn out of my stash and get that cozy blanket somewhere in my apartment. So I will briefly touch on some sewing. I say briefly because, first of all, I know most people aren't interested in sewing that follow my channel, but also I'm just not very good at talking about sewing. I focus on what I need to do, I cut the pattern pieces, I do the things, I make it, and then they're done. It doesn't feel as easy to talk about as knitting, because you can talk about adjustments on rib length or rib texture or what needles you've used, and it's just somehow easier than talking about adjustments in sewing. But it has been a long time since I sewed, and I have wanted to sew, but I couldn't ever get this motivation to do it, nor the desire. It's like I desired to have the desire to sew. And then a week before we were going to Sweden, suddenly I was like, I need to sew. I have to sew. I have to sew these like lounge pants. I realised that all of my pyjama bottoms simultaneously lost their elastic, and so anything that I would just lounge around the house when we had come back from doing our day's fun and activities, I couldn't change into anything comfortable because everything had lost its elastic. And my other version of these trousers have a hole, and I don't have any elastic, and I didn't have time. I said I didn't have time to fix the hole, yet I managed to make a whole brand new pair. But anyway, let me get them. So the first pair I made are the Winslow Culottes, and I decided to make them really long, like floor length long. Totally forgot that I'm 5'2", or what, 157 centimeters. So I had to cut off about this much fabric from the finished item, because obviously they're made for people much taller. So there was a mishap on my part. I just forget that you can't just use sewing patterns and cut and make things. You have to adjust everything, which is one of the reasons I struggle with sewing. But I decided to do the flat front and elasticated back, which isn't part of the original pattern, but there is a hack for it. And I have made these culottes twice before, once as a pair of linen trousers and once as a pair of shorts. Turns out I look very weird in big balloony fabricy shorts, and I made the blue culottes too short, so they make me look really short. I am short, but they just make me look even shorter. So I just thought, it's been a long time since I sewed anything, I'm going to probably make a lot of mistakes. I will use some fabric that I purchased in the thrift stores, charity stores that are bedding, essentially. This is an old duvet that's for children, and it's too short to use. I actually bought it to use. So I wouldn't typically go for this sort of beige colour, but I have the fabric, and I thought they're lounge pants to lounge around the house. They don't need to be super fancy. Turns out they feel super fancy, and I love wearing them. When I'm wearing them, this fits, and I have interfaced it. When I hold it on, it goes all floppy and looks weird, so just imagine it looking better. What else can I say? They went by very quickly, very fast. I have pockets, and they're really big and flary, and I keep thinking of them as like palazzo pants or 1930s beach pants, beach trousers, like beach pajamas. They feel very delightful, and I feel quite cool and fancy in them. Only downside is the colour, and I don't own very much that goes with this colour. This is not my colour for my face, and the rest of the colours in here are kind of brown and ochre, which I don't own. So I do have to come up with some things to wear with this. Hopefully I've inserted some video footage of me wearing them. And that's all I have to say on those. It was a very fun, easy way to get back into sewing, and then I went straight on to my next pair. These did not go as planned. I thought, as much as I love the mass amounts of fabric in these trousers, I do need some trousers that are slightly less intense. So I went for this pattern that used to be free from Peppermint magazine, and I've made them a couple of times in different fabrics, and they are the lounge pants here. And I thought I was going to get, you know, kind of smart and use what I learned from this pattern. And this one, the original pattern, the Winslow Culottes, have 2 pleats at the front and 2 pleats at the back and a zip. But if you want the elasticated waist, you basically omit the zip, and instead of making those pleats, you use that excess fabric to scrunch it up. You put the elastic in and it will use the same amount of fabric. You just don't do the pleats. And I thought I could do the same here. I'll have a flat front and elasticated back. This pattern was designed to have all around elastic. I tried to be smart. It bit me in the bum. I just gave myself so much unnecessary torture and work and ripping out. These have a different style of pocket, and I don't know the technical names of them. They're just pockets to me, but I don't know if they're slash pockets or front facing pockets. I don't actually know that you'd be able to see them. But the construction is very different. You have lots of pocket facings and pieces, extra pieces to make these, whereas these ones you just add the pockets into the side seams and it's super easy. This one's more complicated, but it kind of looks a bit fancy on a less intense piece of fabric. I bought this fabric when I first learnt to sew, thinking it was amazing and I'd make a dress and it'd be beautiful. And then I never touched it because it was the special fabric. And I decided Gotland is a special place and I could use that special fabric to make trousers. And when I made them, I actually realised how intense they are. It's like a grandma's curtain. It's very intense, and you know, I have no idea what to wear these with because there's so much pattern happening. So I am glad I turned these into trousers that are lounge trousers to wear around the house, not into a fancy dress. I didn't have enough fabric to make a dress anyway, but I didn't know that at the time when I bought the fabric. So these have ended up being elasticated all the way around, which originally wasn't my plan because it's not that flattering, but after trying to make this flat, and there ended up being so much excess fabric, and I tried to pleat it, but it ended up pulling the pockets in and it sort of sat like this, and then it gave me this really weird crotch sack. It was bad. So I just ripped all of the work out that I had done and just turned it into what it was supposed to be all along. So I've worn them multiple times. Both of them I wore all holiday long, super comfortable, exactly what I wanted, and worth the stress and struggles of me trying to get my sewing mojo back, and it finally happened. So I do have a lot of sewing that I would like to try, mostly because I cannot find it in the wild. I would like to find 1940s, 1930s style blouses, the kind that have like pleats, like gathered here, and like buttons and then gathered fabric, and I don't know what you call it, but it's typically on men's shirts. At the very at the back you have this kind of folded fabric so that you can do this. Modern day female blouses never fit me in any shape or form. Like nothing about them fits. They don't fit at the front, they don't fit on my shoulders, they don't fit at the back, I can't move my arms. I've never had a blouse that fits. So I need to make my own, and I do have some patterns, but I haven't had the sewing mojo. I'm hoping in November time, when things quieten down a bit, I can get into that. We shall see. I have a lot of difficulties actually sacrificing fabric to sew, because I think it's going to go wrong and it'll be a waste of fabric, and I should choose some fabric that's not very nice, and then I do, and then that'll be the one time it works out and it looks horrible. And then when I try and make it a nice fabric, it doesn't work. But I'm trying to let go of this. I'm trying to just create and not be so precious about the fabric. It's hard. But alas, I have made a start, so that's very exciting. I had so much more I wanted to talk about, but I can't do any more talking. So I will wrap it up there, and hopefully I can get some footage of me wearing these items, and then I will probably catch up with you when I'm back from the UK. Hopefully I get this video up before I go, but I don't know. But I will then do a video where I talk to you about my trip in Gotland and Irland and the yarn that I found and exciting stuff that happened there. But I can't fit it all in this one video. And I do have a big project. I'm looking at it like it's over there. A big project that I want to discuss with you. But that should probably be a whole video by itself, so lots of things in the works. I just need to speed up and get to them. So thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in another month or two. Hopefully another month. Okay, thanks, bye!